Hello. This video is going to be all about um, It's more like a starter's guide for dog training. So we will ponder on a few things, and I wanted to keep this video relatively short. So I'm going to be sticking to the point, and if you have any questions, please post it in a comment. The very first thing that I wanted to introduce is this device which is called a clicker. So there is a button here, you can see that, and as soon as I click the button, it's gonna make a click noise, right? We call this clicker or a marker. All right. The main reason why we need this is because us humans and the dog, assume this is a dog, this is not a dog but a bunny anyway. So we don't have a common language, right? We don't have a way to tell the dog, hey, what you did is right or what you did is not right. And that's where this device comes in. We are going to train, or we are going to, habituate the dog such that each time you click this device, yeah, the dog is going to be rewarded, right? The dog is going to understand that. That is how dogs learn through the conduct of law. So that's how they're gonna learn, and they are gonna associate that click equals treat. And once they associate, we can make them offer behaviors, right? Your dog already knows how to sit, your dog already knows how to lie down, and so on and so forth. So each time they do a behavior and then we mark this, the dog is going to understand that, hey, I went into a sit position and then this guy offered the click and followed the click, following the click, there comes a reward. So that is why we need to teach the dog the clicker or the marker. You can replace this clicker with a word, short, sharp sound like a yes or a good. But what happens is humans tend to associate, or human tends to, you know, inculcate emotions into it. Like when you really expect a behavior and your dog did it well, you would go like yes, yes, yes. And when you expect something and your dog does it like halfway through, you'll be like yes. So there is an emotion attached to it, and it puts your dog under pressure or stress. So which is why we I strongly insist to use this clicker, because there is no emotion attached to it whether your dog you know mm, does it or not. You can be sure, like if your dog does it, you're going to click, or if your dog doesn't do it, then you're not going to click. So that's it. All right. Next, okay, the first thing that we understood is this clicker, right? The next thing we are going to understand is the treats. So this is a preparation that you have to do before the session. Before you call your dog for training, you should have your clicker ready, you should have your treats ready. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about treats is the size of the treat. Like how big should your treat be? Um, like, will this work or will this work? So understand that your treats should be of um, the size of a peanut, right? So easy to munch on and then swallow and then come back for the next repetition. So if you're going to have a big treat, it's going to take time, it's going to take time for the next repetition. So always keep your treats small and manageable. So it doesn't always have to be the size of peanut, but that's just for the reference. So make it more into make the treats more into more of a smaller chunks, and then use it for training. All right, now we have the treats ready, now we have the clicker ready. How do we do it? How do we um, get into dog training? So before we delve into that, I just wanted to share a few words about the mechanics, right? How we are going to introduce the clicker is a topic for another video, but what I wanted to share here is the mechanics. Like when until you click, until your dog hears the click sound, your hands should not reach for a treat, which means you would either have to keep the treats on a table or something, or have all your treats in a treat pouch. That's the bag that dog trainers used to clip it to their belts or pants, and then pick treats from it. So this is how the mechanics of the clicker should be. We click, and only then we reach for the peanut sized treat and then feed the dog, right? This is how it should be. So before you click, even if you pick the treat, I would say it is incorrect, because all your dog would focus on is the treat and not the clicker. So all I suggest is, first click and then reach for the treat and then offer the dog the treat. All right, so we learned two things now. One is the clicker, the other one is the size of the treat, and the third thing is the mechanics, right? So once we understand all these, we can now, you know, ponder on what the training is all about, or at least for family pets, how the training should be, right? So in the training that I do, I recommend people to imagine a scale where, if you draw a line just like a graph, x-axis, right, on one end of the spectrum there is confidence, the other end is where your dog is like, frightened or scary. So our aim should be to move the dog towards the confidence spectrum, so that your dog is not fearful of, um, you know like crackers or vehicle horns, etc., and so on. So the idea is that if anything that falls in the spectrum of fearfulness, you should try and move your dog to the confidence spectrum, so that just like us, he or she can enjoy her life. That's the whole point, right? And remember, training is two-way communication. Training is not about you telling your dog to do something and your dog doing something. It's all about teamwork. Like, you ask your dog, and then your dog is really um, enthusiastic to do the stuff. So that's way more important. Sorry. So our aim or our goal should be to, motivate the dog for the training, and then teach the behavior, and then ask the behavior. So that's how training should be. Anyways, so we talked about the confidence and the fearful spectrum, and then we are talking about how training is going to be a two-way communication, right? You should be able to listen to your dog, and then you should be able to tell your dog what you expect. All right. So I'm going to stop here for a moment and then come back and share a few more things. All right. I'm back. So another thing that I wanted to share is that we would first have to identify whether your dog is active dog or a passive one. Like, active dogs really, they tend to move from place to place, sniffing, just running around, and it's generally an active dog, right, who loves to move around a lot. On the other end, there is this passive dog, or the couch potato. Some dogs, like, they're not really interested in moving. Like, they when you put the food down, they just love eating stuff, and then they would go back and rest, and they're not into movement, right? So we would have to first identify where your dog lies in the spectrum, whether he or she is in the active spectrum or in the passive spectrum. The reason why we have to do that is because, if you have an active dog, you we will focus more on teaching the dog a lot of impulse, like a way to stand still, a way to control the dog when the gate is open, and things like that. Like, essentially, we are teaching the dog to be calm when the dog is more active. That's the gene telling the dog to, do things. And for such dogs, we have to teach a lot of impulse, which is nothing but self control. And for the couch potatoes, we have to involve a lot of movement in the training, which means, you know, like you watch on YouTube or any training program. If you're like standing in one position and trying to teach your dog something, your dog is not going to be interested because there's no movement involved, and they are already passive in their lifestyle. And again, if you teach them in a boring way, they wouldn't be able to understand, or they wouldn't be motivated enough to learn, which is why we have to understand the spectrum of the dog and then go or modify the training based on where your dog lies in the spectrum. So that is important. Just to quickly reiterate, understand what a clicker is and how do we use it, the mechanics of the clicker, and then remember the size of the treats. It's going to be just the same size as of a peanut. Thirdly, before you call your dog for training, remember to set up everything like the place and pick your clicker, get your treats ready, and then call your dog. I suggest to even have your dog's collar and leash ready before you start your training session. And finally, we have to identify two things: whether your dog lies in the, where your dog lies in the active passive spectrum, and where your dog lies with the confidence and fearfulness spectrum. So, all these things will help you quick start your dog training. And, if you have any questions, please post it down below. And happy training.